Guys, and welcome back to Let's Talk Books. As I promised, I will be doing a review on the new It movie, which I finally saw. Now this is going to be a spoiler review discussion. It's had a huge opening weekend, so if you haven't seen it, go see it. I am ready to discuss this movie with you guys. I got my It shirt on. Let me show you. It says, "We all float down here." I love it. It was like 20 bucks on Amazon. I'll put the link down below. And let's get on with this discussion. The first one is so nostalgic to me. It's one of the first horror movies that I've ever seen and fell in love with and was terrified from. And nothing has ever scared me as much as that movie did. Back then, I never read the book. I imagine that if I read it then, which obviously I couldn't have, if I read it then and saw that miniseries, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it that much. But as a little kid, it was terrifying and nothing really compares to it. And I will still watch the classic over and over again just because it has such good memories for me. Good, yet terrifying. So just keep that in mind and know that this remake I absolutely did love. And I think they did an incredible job with the book and emphasizing all the best parts of it, just really portraying that on screen. The main thing that I think every fan was wondering about was how they were going to kill Georgie. Obviously we know how, but just seeing it is a different thing than reading it. Seeing that visual come to life. And oh my god, like I was highly anticipating this scene. And when it happened, almost like this flashback because it happened so quickly. I feel like with the original, when Pennywise's mouth opened, it looked so real. Whereas this one you could tell was more like CGI, which is fine. But obviously they had to make it more drastic and terrifying, which I think they did. And when he chomped off his arm, the scariest part wasn't even the fact that he bit his arm. It was the fact that Georgie was just lying there bleeding to death and then he just got sucked in. I think that was more terrifying than the actual bite because he's just a little boy at the end of the day and he's dead. So it's like, it was a lot to take in. I was like, ooh. I think the opening scene of this movie was so beautifully shot. Just how the camera focused on every move that Bill did when he was making the boat and the music. It just set the whole tone of what the movie was going to be. And I think the first minute, you know it's going to be good. And as soon as that opening scene happened, I was like, Andy, I think he did a good one here, and he definitely did. So if you were watching this, not reading the book, I could see how, not that you could be disappointed. A lot of the most famous scenes from the original were not in this movie. For example, when Eddie is in the shower, that shower scene was probably the most iconic scene in that entire movie. Obviously they didn't do it because one, it wasn't in the book, and two, I assume he just didn't want to touch it, and I think he just wanted to leave it alone and let it be like that classic scene, and that's it, which I appreciate. I feel like maybe people were waiting for that scene. I had a feeling it probably wasn't going to be in it, and I'm glad that it wasn't. Another thing is how Ben met the losers. Ben just met everyone pretty much at once, which I think is not a big deal, but that is definitely something that they changed. I'm going to talk about each individual character and what I liked and didn't like and such. Well, I'll keep Pennywise for last, but the main lead is Bill. I think the actor who played Bill did a pretty good job. His stuttering was definitely on point. If you don't know, I do have a stutter. I try to edit some of it out if I could, so I'm just noting that. I think his stuttering was definitely believable. Bill isn't a boring character, but he isn't anything like exciting. He's just a kid who feels very alone despite having a lot of friends. It's very hard for him after his brother died and like his parents just look at him like he's a nobody, and that's very hard for him. He doesn't have a lot of like big personality traits besides his speech. So for what Bill is as a character, I think the actor did a really good job with him. I really like Eddie's character a lot. You know, he's a hypochondriac, and it's known that his asthma and his sickness is fake because his mom is crazy. And I'm so happy that they got the mom right, like that she's like, you know, she's bigger, she's dirty, because in the TV movie they made her look out to be like so like rich and like prissy and blah blah blah. It makes you understand Eddie's character a lot more. Then you have Richie. I really like the actor because he's in Stranger Things. So I already knew he was going to do a good job with Richie because he kind of plays that character in Stranger Things. And it was kind of hard to take him away from the character from Stranger Things because he acted very similar to that character. The thing is that they made all the other characters have really funny punchlines. It didn't really make him the ultimate like funny friend because they were all quite funny in their own way. And then I also think that sometimes his punchlines were just too much all the time. I felt like they had to tone it down just a little bit towards the end. Like I didn't need him to crack a joke at every single moment. Also changed his fear to clowns, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. I love that scene though, which but they definitely missed the werewolf, which I think is weird because I feel like in the 80s there were a lot of werewolf movies happening, and it would be a decent fear to have and not have it a clown when the main killer is a clown, you know? So I thought that was kind of weird, but I still like what they did with it because that scene was terrifying. Mike, I'm so happy that they incorporated Mike's background a lot in this movie like it is in the book with his parents and the fire. Mike's character grows so much more in the books, and you know, ultimately he's the one that brings them all together at the end. So I feel like having his story be known was very important. Then you have Ben, which, oh my god, tell me this kid wasn't the cutest freaking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, you just wanted to squeeze him. I loved him. He was so cute. You could tell he loved Beverly. Like, the way he just looked at her, I was like, you're so young, yet you have this like look in your eyes that like you know what love is. And I think it's so adorable. I love the New Kids on a Block reference because it is the 80s. And I think that whole thing was adorable with him and Beverly when they first met, and how he had the poster on the door. Just that entire thing. Like every time he came on the screen, you were just like, he's just so cute. I love the scene where Henry and his crew gang up on Ben and Henry carves the H in his stomach. Ooh, it looked real. In that particular scene, it obviously showed what kind of person Henry Bowers is, but also what it is doing to the community and how he has such control over the adults, and that no kid is safe no matter what. So that scene, really, really good. Loved it. Last is Beverly, and I could just imagine going into this movie and only seeing the TV series and having the original Beverly in your head, and she's the complete opposite. She smokes, she's more badass, and she has a lot more character to her. She just, I think she shines on the screen, and she was probably one of the best characters in this movie. Because Beverly is that character that I think out of anyone really went through hell and back throughout her entire life. And I can't wait for part 2 so you could see just how much her childhood is affecting her adulthood. How sexual abuse, mental abuse, and physical abuse can change a person, and you really see that when she gets older. So I'm really glad that they got her character down to the T, and the actress just did such a phenomenal job with portraying her perfectly. And the scene in the bathroom was so intense. Like, it looked like Carrie happened in that bathroom. Like, it was blood everywhere. So something I want to point out, and maybe I'm the only one. Now, this book is set in the 80s. I didn't really get that 80s vibe. Yeah, the clothes and just them interacting with each other seemed like very now. So honestly, if you were watching this like blindly, you would think that it was a movie set now. Besides the scenery and the 80s music, it didn't really feel all that 80s to me. So that was my only like little letdown, was that. Now, obviously, the main person in this movie is Pennywise the Dancing Clown. I ultimately think that Bill played this version of Pennywise to the best of his ability, and he gave Pennywise this character, like he was a real character. He wasn't just this clown. Like, he had all these different emotions and the way that he moved and talked, and he drooled like every time he spoke, like he was like drooling all the time. Like, that must have been gross to do. And I enjoyed like his little like smart ass remarks, because that's what he was. He was a little smart ass. I just loved how he portrayed him. like I said, in a different way, because obviously he looks totally different from the original. And the fact that he's so tall makes it a lot more creepier. I've said this before, I hate the teeth. I don't like his little, like, rabbit teeth. He looks like a rabbit. I wish they changed that. I don't know, it looks weird. So every time I see him, he kind of reminds me of like a rabbit clown hybrid mixed with Shakespeare. Now, he's still terrifying by no means, but yeah, I still think Bill did a great job. I think that he was scary and he did all the voices really well. He transitioned really well from being like this smartass trying to be funny clown to terrifying and I want to eat your head off. So he really did those characters well. Probably the most scary and best scene in this movie was when they were all together looking through the photos. It was nothing like what they show in the trailer. The way he came out of there, like quadruple the size of him, he was like, that was terrifying to say the least. Like, he was so massive and his mouth was like, oh, that scene definitely had me like, I don't say shook often, but it had me shook. Like, it was like I wasn't scared throughout this movie. It was weird. I was almost like mesmerized. Like, I felt like a little kid watching like my favorite cartoon. I was like this the whole time. I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next and what scene they were going to do and how they were going to do it. Like, I was just so excited. Like, I was just like, I'm kind of scared, but I'm not scared. I'm just so excited. Like, I just felt like a little kid. That's all I really wanted. I wanted to feel like how I did when I was younger. Obviously, I was more scared, but I still had that like excitement inside of me. So I think that's an A+ for me. The ending was definitely a little different from the book and obviously from the TV movie. The biggest line was probably, "This is battery acid, you slime," which I think is so iconic. In a way, glad it didn't happen in this one. And it was almost like a team effort to kill him, which I liked. They all kind of got a swing at him, which was very like, yeah. Like, it was good. You also got to see his spider form. There was that one particular scene at the end where he goes like, where he's like almost dying and his like form is trying to come out. And I think that was good and kind of gave you a glimpse of what he's going to look like as a spider. I know a lot of people are iffy about him being a spider, and you definitely got to see the ball of light and how it hypnotized Beverly, which I liked. And the sewer was really cool, like how all the kids were floating in the air. It really did feel like they were in this other universe, and even though it was just like the sewage, it was like being in his world. The set work was insane. Every scene was so detailed and planned out. From his house to the sewage to everything in this movie, it was so detailed, and you could tell they just put so much effort into this movie, and it showed. He really exceeded my expectations. So my final conclusion to this is that you had nonstop horror and jump scares. But ultimately, you had a movie that was filled with likable and relatable characters, especially Henry. You got to understand him and know where he was coming from. Not that what he does is acceptable by all means, but I'm glad that people got to see his father and how he is to him, and just to get a little insight of all these characters and their backstory, which I think is so important, because besides just the scare and gore, it had to get the characters right, and I think they did that. And dialogue that is good and imagery that makes your eyes just glued to the screen. And that mixed with the soundtrack was just epic. Oh my god, just it was so eerie and just good, and just it made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. If you're a horror fan, if you're a Stephen King fan, if you're just going into this wanting to see something new and different, go out and see it. It will definitely make you sleep with one eye open and have his face like glued into your mind because it was for me. So that is all I have to say about this movie. As you could tell, I loved it, and I don't really rate movies, like, but if I had to give it a rating, I would give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved it, and I just think that it did the book justice. And hey, if Stephen King liked it and saw it twice, it has to be good. So yeah, I cannot wait to see it again, to get the DVD, the extras, all that jazz. And beyond that, I cannot wait for part 2 or chapter 2. And who are the actors that are going to play them? Definitely let me know what actors you want to see portray the adult losers, because I would like to know that. We have like a total of like 2 years to wait for this damn thing. Oh, that's way too long. I hope you enjoyed this discussion and you enjoyed the movie like I did, and let me know your thoughts. And until next time, we all float. Was that scary enough? No?